I really like that. I shared that Dan Moeller thing the other
Yeah.
day where he said we've got so often we'll see the image of what you said where like Jesus was this pacifying
Yes.
intermediary between God and us. In reality, he didn't come to convince God
Nope.
to love us. He came to convince us about how much God loves
Yes.
us. He said it a little bit
Yeah,
different,
no,
but it's like that's why he stuck
yeah.
me. And it does. It changes everything. I worry, but I don't because I know God's good. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? I worry because I know what happened whenever I started biting my words. It was rough. Guys, it was rough. I
It's
don't
like
know if
getting
I've ever
teeth
told
pulled
you.
almost.
It's rough.
Yeah.
You know?
It's like pulling the foundation out from under you. It's we realize
Yes.
Jesus is the foundation, but it's if you're not careful, you let doctrine almost take the place of Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
And so then what's being pulled out is not Jesus, it's the doctrine that you thought was
Exactly.
Jesus.
But we tie to that.
Yes.
Our personalities because it's a cultural thing.
It is.
You know? God is not cultural.
No.
But religion is cultural. Right?
Religiosity.
The Father is not cultural, but our doctrines are cultural,
Right.
like it or not, right? That's why we can go to a Southern Baptist church and they're singing hymns, and we can go to a newer church and they're singing modern worship songs, and we can go to a song in Italy. And what do you think they're singing there?
Yeah.
They're singing chants and Gregorian chants. You know what I'm saying? Like you go to a song in a church in Germany, they're singing in Germany, or singing in German. Sorry, that sounds stupid. But it's cultural,
Yeah.
and that's okay. The character is not cultural,
Right.
right?
Across the board.
And so whenever you grab that, and whenever there's something you've known forever, and then all of a sudden you're like, wait a minute, maybe this means something different. It's like your culture is being shifted.
Yeah.
It's like who
you're
you
moving.
are as a person, because that's who we are. That's our culture is what defines us.
Yep.
The way that I grew up is maybe a little bit different than you, but not a lot. But you know what I'm saying? It's totally different than somebody else.
Yeah.
God doesn't change,
No.
right? But whenever we all of a sudden we're forced to look at God in a light that's maybe not the same as what we grew up with, it's literally changes our identity. Almost like He told us that was going to happen. Almost like He said you're going to have to die to yourself.
Right.
Almost like He's like, hey, the way I feel about you is more important than the way you feel about you.
Yep.
Cultural identity or not. Like,
I think the hardest thing for us to do is to change.
Yeah.
You know, and not only that, but to admit that they I could potentially be wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's really a hard pill to swallow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when I was first started looking at words, I'll be honest, it made me angry.
Yeah, it does.
I mean, it made me angry
You're ready.
with you know, I was like, why wasn't I ever told this?
Yeah.
Yep.
That kind of angry.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
I mean, like, why did you know? And then, but then it came eventually that, you know, well, my fathers, the one that taught me, they were just doing the best they could.
Yeah.
They were doing the best that they had.
Absolutely.
It's awesome today that we have the ability to be able
Oh,
to
yeah.
really search for truth if you want to.
Oh yeah.
The desire has to be there. There was a time that I met a guy over at the surgical center. I don't know if I've ever told you this
Tell
before,
us.
but he was dying. He had leukemia, and he asked me one time. He said, "Hey, do you know in the Bible there's 3 different words that mean love?" You know, I mean, and I had never heard
Yeah.
that before. I didn't know. And he said, "Yeah, 2 of them are used in actually the same passage at the last chapter of John."
Right.
And one being agape and one being phileo.
Mm-hmm.
And though totally different meanings,
Yeah.
but both could be translated as love.
Love.
And it's actually for a backstory of what, you know, it's Jesus asking Peter, "Do you love me?"
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, that's a huge question, and we don't think of that so much of the time. You know, but we could ask one another, you know, I mean, do we love him?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And Peter, he was unable. He said, and that word that Jesus uses, he uses the word agape. He said, he's like saying, "Do you agape me?"
Uh huh.
You know, basically saying, "Peter, do you love me enough to die?"
Mm.
You know, and Peter responds and says, "Phileo." Says, "You know, I phileo thee," which phileo comes from the it's a Greek word that we see it in Philadelphia, the city of brotherly love. It
Right.
means like a brotherly type of a love.
Right.
So it's totally different from agape, which is a more intense love, is one that you would give your life for, or I love you as a brother, but I don't know that I can die for you.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
That's huge difference in my opinion. So he asked me, he said, you know there, and I said, I know I didn't. I went home that night, man, and I began to look in the Bible. And when I found that it was true, that it's two different words,
Yeah.
I was like, how is my so
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Why am I just now learning? Here I am over 40 years old,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm just now hearing about this. And then it began. It went from like an anger to almost like a, Lord God help me.
Yeah.
You know, what I mean, I just want to know truth.
Yes.
Yeah.
I want to know what your truth is.
Yeah.
Tell me truth.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I want to know. And I mean, from that point on, I began to look at the Greek words, and also it led for me more to the Hebrew side of it, because I like the Hebrew concept of the Old Testament, because I feel as though that everything is built off of that.
Right.
If there has to be a foundation, we have to start at the beginning. And even the prophet said, if you're to understand the end, we have to understand the beginning. You know what I'm saying? So if we don't understand the beginning, then you could truly get the end messed up.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so that's what it's come to me, and I was like, it's been really good up to this point, and I just would love for everyone to jump on this bandwagon, because it's truly, it's a hard pill to swallow, but it's an eye-opening thing. It's almost like, I was blind. Now I'm beginning to see. It's not like I see, but I'm beginning to truly, really see what it is. What it's all about.
You know how confident I am in this is that there's nothing specifically that if somebody who was totally bogged down in maybe their belief system or doctrine, there's nothing that they sit down at the table that I would say, this is what you're wrong about. I would just challenge them, right? And I think you were going to say something about that, but I would challenge them.
Yeah.
Hey, do you love God?
Yeah.
You say you love God. Do you believe in God?
Yeah.
If you believe in God, you got to believe that He's Almighty, right? And I got okay with that one day. After I was really scared about learning new things, I was like, wait a minute, God, you're so big that if you save me, God, if you're so big that you love me and keep me, well then I can learn something incorrect and you can fix my doctrine.
Absolutely.
I'm not going to get carried away by a wind of doctrine, by some foreign devil. I love you and you love me.
Yeah.
I'm your sheep and I hear your voice.
Yeah.
So if I learn something and it's not from you, then you will tell me, right? So just to have the passion to know different is enough.
Right,
That's
because he's the checks and balances.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Like
exactly.
in our government, we've got the judicial and the legislation and the president, whatever it's called.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, they check and balance each other. But we don't have to worry about that. It's not like we're checking him and he checks us all, right? And that's an amazing point, because I was with my nephew. I was revealing to him some revelation that the Lord had given me, just kind of speaking this into him. And he had the same concern you did, and he said. He told me, he testified this to me, and he said, Lord, what James is saying seems right, but I just want to know from you. So he said he had never asked the Lord for a sign before. And he said, Lord, if this is right, I need you to show me. And he said he went home and he told what we had been talking about to his wife. And he said, it's not like she said, huh? He said she received it and was so happy about it, she couldn't believe it. And they both were driving in the car going somewhere, and they just both started bawling together. And he didn't say, oh, James, you were right. He said, the Lord is right. Yep. And so the checks and balances that he needed, trusting God with the revelation, came from God with the evidence of God having an experience with him and his wife. And so he was like, that's what I want, is the Lord. And so it's a work in progress with me, it's a work in progress with him, with you guys, but it's a progressive thing. It's not like, hey, we know it all now, we got to figure it out. We sit down here to tell you how it is. We're still learning. It's just like every time you open the Word that you read something new.